A solid center at 26, still in the prime of his career and locked under a reasonable contract for this and 4 more seasons. That's where we start with our insiders, Chris Johnston, Pierre LeBrun, and Darren Dreger. Dregs, what's the latest on Robert Thomas?
Well, I can tell you, Gino, as we reported earlier, that negotiations between the St. Louis Blues and the Buffalo Sabres heated up on Tuesday. Now, it's not at a point yet where it is right at the finish line. I mean, that could happen with a simple phone call. But it's pretty evident that Jarmo Kekalainen, the new general manager of the Buffalo Sabres, is trying to put his stamp on this team and bolster his lineup as the Buffalo Sabres prepare for the playoffs. We know that there's been a ton of conversations around Robert Thomas with Blues general manager Doug Armstrong. Some serious contenders, more tire kickers. But at this point, it does feel like the Buffalo Sabres are the front runner.
And the Blues have been looking for 3 to 4 what I'll call premium assets in this deal, which is one of the reasons all these teams out there with that interest, Dregs, haven't got to the point where Buffalo is. And what I can tell you about the Sabres is the belief is they have got it into that range where you're talking about a package of picks, players, and prospects that gets to about 4 players. And if you get to that stage, I do think you have to wonder, will the Sabres be able to pry a little bit more out of St. Louis than just Robert Thomas? They are looking for a defenseman, and the Blues do have some players at that position available in this trade market. So that's another thing to consider here as the teams continue to grind away at this deal.
And CJ, you just mentioned the really high asking price from the Blues on Robert Thomas, as it should be. And it's because of that asking price that's too high that I don't see the Montreal Canadiens right now being a serious player. Yes, they've had conversations with the Blues about Robert Thomas, but when the ask involves the likes of Michael Hage and David Reinbacher plus, it doesn't make sense right now from a Habs perspective to get into that kind of transaction. They're just starting their window here. This is not time for them to have the blockbuster that puts them over the top. So the Habs are being really patient. From what I understand, they're waiting for some deals to come to them, but they're not going to force one here on Robert Thomas unless the price comes down.
Pierre, the Oilers got the right-handed D-man to bolster their blue line. That's already done. So what's next for Edmonton now?
Yeah, what's next first is they have to somehow separate themselves from Andrew Mangiapane and his contract. We know he cleared waivers a couple of days ago. They spent a lot of Tuesday, I'm told, trying to find a landing spot for Mangiapane on that extra year at $3.6 million. Once they're able to do that, the number one priority is to go get a third-line center who has some physicality, some ruggedness, a type of player that really fits in come playoff time. You know, the name of Nick Roy has been out there, the Toronto Maple Leafs player that came over in the Mitch Marner deal. The Oilers do covet the kind of attributes that Nick Roy has, although I'm told that they have not yet made a trade offer to the Toronto Maple Leafs for him. But he represents a kind of player they're looking at right now. And if not him, I mean, there's a bigger name out there, Braden Shen, who has 2 more years on his deal at $6.5 million a year. The Blues would have to retain salary for that to ever make sense for Edmonton. But again, ruggedness, physicality, that's a top 9 forward that Edmonton would like to get before Friday's deadline.
Guys, in a perfect world, GMs who are selling want to sit back and wait for a bidding war to maximize their return. But that's not happening right now, Dregs?
No, lots of conversations. I mean, that's just par for the course when you're looking at a looming trade deadline as of Friday. I can tell you that Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, I mean, these are teams with general managers who are eager and are having tons of conversations, but they're caught up in what is being described right now as a buyer's market. A buyer's market means that there are a lot of players who are in play right now. So these general managers, Kevin Shovelday, Brad Treliving, Craig Conroy, and Patrick Allvin, don't have a choice but to stay patient. They know they've got quality pieces, so we'll find out whether the action picks up between now and Friday.
We know the Canucks are selling. We've heard a lot of talk around Tyler Myers and Elias Pettersson, but you're hearing another name out of Vancouver drawing some significant attention right now, CJ?
Yeah, that would be Conor Garland, who saw a spike in trade interest on Tuesday. And the reason that might be a surprise is that he's got a lot of term attached to him, right? His 6-year contract extension he signed last summer doesn't kick in until this July 1st. But Garland has some admirers in the Eastern Conference in particular. That includes the New York Islanders, who have been linked to him, although I was cautioned about trying to oversell that nothing is certainly done when it comes to the Islanders and Garland. But definitely at this point in time, the Canucks are working through some of this interest and seeing if they can get something done with Garland before Friday.
The Flyers have got a much coveted right-handed D-man who's available, but he's not going to come cheap here.
No, the current asking price from the Flyers is a first-round pick and a prospect. And listen, he's got another year in his deal at $5.1 million. That in itself is very appealing for the kind of player he is. That there are 2 playoff runs left in his contract, so teams are definitely calling. I also think that the Tyler Myers situation has an impact here. Another right-handed D. Dregs has been all over this, but the Myers situation might finally be resolved come the end of Wednesday. So whether he accepts a trade to Detroit or Dallas makes an offer, we'll see. But once Myers' situation is done, then perhaps more clarity on where Ristolainen ends up.
The trade talk and news continue to flow in, and our insiders Chris Johnston, Pierre LeBrun, and Darren Dreger are going to be all over it between now and Friday's deadline.